All right. Good evening and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Lunenburg Municipal Building Design Committee. Today is Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025. The time is now 5:33. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access channel, or will be broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access channel. The recording of this meeting will be available on the Lunenburg Public Access YouTube channel within 24 hours. The agenda lists all the topics which may be discussed at this meeting and are those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by the open meeting law. Public participation is encouraged, and public comments may be welcomed during committee member discussions at the discretion of the chair. I want to acknowledge the members we have with us this evening. We have from APDC, Mr. Tony Scullin-Brini. We have Mr. Greg Roy. We have, I'm just looking, Mr. Brian Leighton. We have Mr. Tom Gray, Mr. Matt Allison, and those are the members of the committee that are with us tonight. We're also joined by Marley Lynch, Stephen Lauder, and Robert Taylor from Taylor and Burns. And I do see that we have Selectman Imke here with us this evening, a member of the Lunenburg Select Board. And then also want to acknowledge Laura Brzezowski, who's a member of the school committee, and Steve Walker, who's a member, the chair, I believe, of PAC. All right, we're going to begin this evening with public comments. Do we have any public comments from the board this evening? All right, do we have any public comments from our APDC representative, Mr. Scullin-Brini?
Nope.
And do we have any public comments from the public this evening? All right, seeing none, I will turn it over to Taylor and Burns, Robert Taylor. So we're going to do a progress update. And then when we finish our discussion with Taylor and Burns, we will proceed to have just a couple other conversations here about the phasing of the project, as well as just the general path ahead for town facilities. And then discussion on the TC pass seals and building system considerations. If Chris Ruth is not able to join us by that time, then I will provide the update that Chris Ruth provided to me. All right, thank you, Mr. Taylor, thank you, Mr. Lauder, and thank you, Ms. Lynch, for being with us this evening, and I'll turn it over to you guys. And just a reminder that I think most people are on mute, so let me know if you need to come off of it or if I'm somehow blocking you on mute.
There, can you hear me?
I can.
Great. Thank you, Chairman Jeffries and members of the Lunenburg Municipal Design Committee and others with us tonight. This is a progress presentation, meaning that it's a continuance really of what you saw last time and a preview of what you'll see next time. There are improvements to share with you, and of course, we're welcome to your suggestions as you see these slides. Please feel free to interrupt and stop us while the thought is in your mind. We're going to show some site plans, some building plans, and some rendered perspectives of the proposed changes. With that, we'll just jump right into it. This is the overall site plan with the 3 buildings in consideration: the Old Town Hall, which will be a meeting house, the Ritter Building, which will become the school department, and then the new Town Hall, in addition to Ritter. And what's different here is that you don't see a footprint for the PAC. The PAC is now accommodated within the Town Hall footprint at the basement level, and we'll show that as we get into the details of that. Also, you can see the parking arrangement with 80 parking spaces at the site of the School Street site, and they will be covered by a photovoltaic array, providing shade for the cars that are parked there, and also snow coverage, while generating electricity to benefit the people of Lunenburg. There will be 7 parking spaces nearer to the building, to the town hall, plus 15-minute parking Those 7 spaces are for disabled who need to be closer to the building when they park their cars, and also people who are just shooting in for a quick, drop off an envelope or something like that. Over by the Ritter entrance, there will be 6 parking spaces plus another 15-minute parking space. And with that, I would like to zoom in on building plans, unless anybody has questions about the site plan. This is the first floor plan of the new town hall highlighted there. You can see there's a colonnade that follows School Street that gathers people from the parking lots and leads to a side door. And then there's also a more monumental colonnade across the front facing Massachusetts Avenue that leads to another entrance where there is a stair. In the center of the plan, there's an elevator. And so just to name the program spaces that are on this floor, going from, say, top of the clock, counterclockwise, we have an IT suite at the Massachusetts Avenue door, and then the assessor's office with a data collector and a transaction counter at that corner. As you go past the elevator, you can see there's a group of offices, town offices, at the southern end of this plan. The treasurer, accounting, bullpen with private offices for treasurer, payroll clerk, town accountant, town clerk, and the vault. And then across the hall, the assistant town clerk and registrar. There are 2 transaction counters into this space. Stephen, could you highlight where those 2 are? With your cursor, there we go. Yep, thank you. And so right at the crossroads, there's an elevator that takes you upstairs or downstairs, and also a kind of shared copy, office supply, copy space. There are 2 stairs within the footprint of the building, and there is a ramp that connects it to the lower floor of Ritter. And we're going to talk about Ritter now, which is school department spaces. In the center of the historic building, at the lower floor, is the Ace Kitchen and special service rooms that go around that, with a large mechanical room. And there's Veterans Service Office just to the left-hand end of that lower floor. Going up the half-level stairs to the 1965 wing of the Ritter, that's where the ACE meeting spaces are and a reception area. And just outside the building, a new accessible entrance, which we'll show you a rendering of in a few slides. We are proposing that there will be a new Lula elevator. That's a limited use, limited access elevator, which is allowed in the renovations of buildings that are 3 stories or less in height. It's a new elevator mechanism, but it will have a limited platform space. It won't be like a full-sized elevator that you might see in, say, a hotel or a shopping mall. It's a lift, proper lift, but more in the dimensions of the one that you already have. It is permitted by code to replace those types of elevators. Let's go up 1 floor. So this is the upper floor. And so on the town hall side, as you ascend the stairs at the Mass Ave end of the building, you would arrive in a waiting area. There is a health board, and down the hall, the building department with the building commissioner, building inspector, administrative assistants, and records. And that's a waiting area. It's not labeled, that triangular area out, yeah, where the cursor is right now. Sorry, that should be labeled waiting area for the building department. And then there is a planning conservation bullpen at the southern end of the plan with their waiting area. and then a town manager's bullpen with the assistant town manager and the town manager in a conference room and their transaction window. Alongside the ramp, there's another kitchen copy space. And Stephen, did we miss something up on the east side of the second floor of the town hall? Can you go up the plan a little bit? Yeah, right. Health board. Oh yes, toilet rooms. I'm sorry, failed to mention those. This ramp, which would be sloping upward of 30 inches or so, would bring you to the upper floor of the old Ritter building, where there would be school department offices, the superintendent's office in the center of the historic building with the round top window looking out over the lawn, and director of teaching, food and facilities, human resources and finance, and some open office space. And again, the same Lula lift that we mentioned before. So those are the upper and lower plans of the new town hall and Ritter. And the next plan is the basement level, which this is new from the last time we met. We thought about the amount of excavation that would be required for the foundations for town hall. They would need to be at a minimum 4 to 5 feet deep for proper frost walls. And going a few more feet down, we took it down to 12 feet below grade to accommodate the extra height requested by the PAC studio. We can accommodate the PAC at this level with considerable savings, I think, compared to building a freestanding building for them. It would give them the spaces that they were looking for in the Passios building. Same square footage, slightly different configuration because this is not in that building. This is in a new building. So, and these spaces could be reshuffled if the people who would use those spaces need to do that. And this would be accessed by an elevator from the ground level floor. So if you recall that ground level floor with its side door entrance, you can imagine pulling up a van in front of the entrance door, wheeling equipment down the hall to the elevator down to this level. I think it'd be very functional. There's also 2 stairs that go up to the main floor. And then this floor would also accommodate mechanical and electrical rooms, elevator machine rooms, and potentially also storage space for either town hall needs or school department needs. So this is a new progress since we last met. Open to your comments on this, but we did it because we think it's a good cost saver compared to building a new freestanding building for PAC.
Robert, I'm going to open
Yep.
up to the committee for any comments here. I will comment broadly, and then I do want to bring in Steve Walker here, but I will comment broadly that, you know, we provided you with, I think, 28 plus points of requests from the meeting that came out of staff. And I think it all has been very tastefully accounted for in the plans that we just saw. You know, if we go up to some of the upper levels, if we can go to the first floor, and I'll just highlight what some of those requests were. Some of the requests were for the accounting treasurer team to be in the same area as they currently are. There was also a request for there to be 2 service windows. Specifically, the treasurer wanted to be able to see the window from her office. And then there was also a request, accounting functions typically are internal, where the only people who are interacting with that function are other departments. And they requested as well a window, a service window for the staff to be able to utilize. And the real benefit here for both is that if one window gets a little a line serving, that it gives the staff the opportunity to go to the second window. Another concern was trying to bring the traffic out of the hallways here and incorporating some waiting areas or other areas, so that was done. The town clerk and accounting also requested access to the vault As they're depicted now, it shows two doors. This may be changed to just one door accessible from the town clerk's side. But they did want to have quick interaction with each other due to how their day-to-day work and functions overlap or really collaborate. The request was for the Veteran Service Office to have some waiting chairs around it, and those have been depicted here. And then also for a copy room to be added into the first floor. And then just some other minor changes that were made here. On the school side, meeting with the school department, this completely reflects what was asked for in my meeting by them, by the school district offices, which was to have kind of that centralized office for the ACE space, and then having a more private area for individual students to be able to meet in. I think the way that this is depicted, the room in the back, the ACE meeting room, may be a little bigger than what they were looking for, but we can certainly make those modifications. The school department also requested a reception area, an enclosed reception area where parents could fill out some paperwork. They wanted to make use of what's identified as a special service area to be somewhat of a bullpen for some of their admins on the lower level, and then to have these offices that they called out here, and to have the ACE kitchen here. If we can go to the next floor, I'll highlight some of the requests. Request from the school department again was to keep that kind of open space bullpen area for additional administrators, to move the superintendent's office, and to again account for a little more room, which is there. And then these offices as identified. And then there's a question that I think we all had about, is that second mode of egress required now, where we're currently showing that external staircase? And the school department was basically that if it wasn't required, that they can use that for storage. Going into the town hall side, we did have the request from the town manager office, basically to account for the communications specialists. And so that was added into this bullpen. Also, the request was for their space to get a little bit bigger. And so this does depict that. Similarly, in the bullpen for conservation and planning, their request was a somewhat of a waiting area to again get people out of the hallway. And then the area that's currently identified as building commissioner, building inspector, their admin, this was actually designed by them. They did an overlay of what they wanted this space to look like, and they drew it out and gave it to us. And this is exactly what's been inputted here. What's identified on the north side of a waiting area was basically future expansion space for future offices that we didn't want to have in an enclosed and empty office. But based on the square footage, that we have that expansion space for where we could in the future very easily enclose an area to accommodate for additional offices. So I think that based on the feedback that we received from staff, and again, I'm missing some of the points, but I'm just speaking to the ones that I recall more clearly. I think that you guys have done a great job incorporating it. And then if we go to the lower level to the pack, and I do want to hear from Mr. Walker. Their request again was to have these kind of suites. We know that they did not want windows in the PAC studio. There was a question about, could we put a bathroom down here? Would that be feasible or not? I know that there's a lot of complications when you're below grade on that extent below grade. But I think this depicts essentially what they were looking for, which was that the control room, edit suite, the equipment storage in the PAC studio would be windowless. Obviously, everyone prefers that offices have windows in them, but I think there was value as they depicted it in co-locating those offices with the critical functions that are happening there. Because we have an executive order coming from the governor of Massachusetts that reinforces that buildings need to be planned, municipal buildings need to be planned to not rely on fossil fuels. I know that we'll get more information about what are the systems that potentially could be proposed here, but it should be a more quiet MEP. MEP refers to mechanical, electrical, plumbing. This is where primary building systems could be. And so I think that this depicts that. And then also, and once you're below grade, I know you can speak to this, you have a new requirement in the code. I wouldn't say too new, but it's 10 years new, that you need to have two modes of egress. And so once you have people working in that space, you have to have two ways for them to get out of it. And so this depicts those two staircases that show that. So I'm going to stop talking. I think this captures what I sent over to you that came out of those meetings with staff. So Mr. Roy had his hand up, and then I am going to call for Steve Walker if you're available first to speak to the PAC space in particular. Mr. Walker?
Good evening. Hi, Steve Walker. This is the first I've seen. It looks interesting. Can you tell me what the square footage of the shaded area is?
Stephen, do you have those numbers?
We can get those numbers shortly for you.
That's fine. Yeah.
They are based on a minimum that was sent over to us and then expanded on. So they are greater than each of these rooms is greater than the minimum that was sent over to us for a request of that space.
If I can interject, it's just under 2,000 square feet.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Can somebody explain to me how we can have secure late access to this space? We sometimes, if we're doing like the town meeting and people drone on and on, by the time we get out and bring our equipment back, because we can't keep it at the school, we can't take it home. We need secure late access, but we want it in a way that ensures we don't have full access to the rest of the building, which would not be good.
So I can jump in here. Would you mind just going back to the first floor? So if you first floor of the building. So one of the things, Mr. Walker, that's going to come out in the construction part of this process is door access and how door accesses work. That is a little bit beyond the scope per se of the design phase in terms of laying out that level of detail. But there is ability here to create essentially they would have access to the full building because we don't have conference rooms in this building. It's unlikely that it would be utilized after regular business hours. And so I would presume that it would be an empty building after business hours. And so you would have the ability to come in. Again, there will be 15-minute parking or a parking lot just south of this. And so the access would be under the walkway through the side door, straight into the elevator. So yep, thank you. Straight into that elevator, bringing you down to that lower level. And so, again, that could be accommodated with card access, in which, a lot of newer buildings are designed with proxy cards to be able to get into those spaces. So that way you can better control who can come into them and what times you can come into them.
Okay, thank you. And the ceiling height, I've heard a variety of numbers. Could somebody tell me a real working ceiling height that we can hang lights and microphones and drapes from?
Yes, I will say it's 11 feet today. And I'm saying that with the sense that we've designed it at a 12-foot floor-to-floor dimension from the first floor to the basement floor. And that allows 1 foot for structure and pipes and things like that overhead, giving you 11-foot clear height in the studio space, control and equipment storage.
What's the floor made of?
It would be a concrete slab, insulated, waterproofed, and it could have any range of toppings. It could be just polished concrete with a sealer, or it could have an epoxy coating.
Okay, I was just concerned that it's a solid floor, not like we have in the present town hall, which tends to creak. So you guarantee no creaks, right?
No creaks on this floor. No.
And the HVAC is such that because we have a lot of electronic equipment, which is not only sensitive to low humidity for static reasons, but very sensitive to high humidity for corrosion and other issues. So will the HVAC in that area function as if we were above grade?
Yes, there will be 2 modes of heating and cooling. One will be using air coupled heat pumps, so-called split systems with
Okay.
outdoor compressors that feed refrigerant to interior cassettes that blow cool air or warm air as needed. And then there will also be, in addition to that, ventilation to assure that the air is fresh. And the ventilation would be ducted supply air coming from an outdoor mounted source, and exhausted air would be would have its it's called an energy recovery ventilation system, so that warm air being exhausted has its energy extracted and transferred to the incoming fresh stream of air. So
Okay.
that could all be, digitally controlled to exactly your standards of humidity and temperature.
And we'll be very, very quiet, or are we going to have industrial fans?
Oh, it would be quiet. Low
That's a real
velocity
issue
air.
with us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. The way it's laid out, which I've only just seen, does have an issue which we don't need to get into. If we can we take those dimensions and put ourselves in them and see what happens?
Oh, of course. Yeah. We took the square footages that
Right.
were given to us, added to it a little bit, and basically drew a plan that we hope you might like. If it needs to change, it can change.
Thank you.
And I will comment one thing that, although some of these things aren't being said, there are limits on how far hallways can be, and how deep they can be from some of these modes of egress, and that has been accounted for in this layout and design. So I just want to throw that out there as well, that I think in a previous version that I had previewed last Thursday with Mr. Taylor and his team, I know that there were some modifications to make sure that we were within compliance with coding requirements as it relates to that. All right, Mr. Walker, any concerns, questions about this space besides the request for actual square footage?
I think that's what I know at this point, but I'll take it away and we'll see what we can make sense of. But overall, in the big scheme of things, it looks good. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Roy.
Yeah, my question was related to the depth of the basement. You more or less answered that, but I guess I was getting at what are you anticipating for? Maybe I'm getting too in the weeds and my civil engineering hat is coming on, but what do you anticipate for a depth from the existing grade down to the slab of the
Well,
basement?
the existing grade will be just a few inches below the main floor level for accessibility
Sure.
reasons. And then basement would be 12 feet below that. So I would expect depth of excavation to be about 13 feet below grade.
Okay.
We don't think there will be groundwater. There may be ledge. That is all to be determined. We haven't done any geotechnical borings, but I expect there to be just a lot of gravel and sand, glacial till.
And luckily, Mr. Roy has done some surveying in this area, so he might, I think he's provided us with some good insight that
I did topography, but I haven't done any digging over there. So,
okay.
but no, that answers my question. Thank you very much.
All right, broadly, questions? I know that there's more to this presentation, so any questions thus far?
Yeah, this is Brian. You had mentioned the canopy. Is there going to be a need for cutting down trees in that area where the canopy would be for the solar?
As I recall, that area where the school building stood just up to just a few years ago is mostly lawn. We did not do a tree survey and compared it to our parking lot layout. There may be around the perimeter some trees that would need to be taken down to provide the solar array. But we haven't done a real careful study of that.
Okay, thank you. That was all I had.
All right, any additional questions at this point before they proceed? All right, Robert, back to you.
Right. Thank you all. I'm going to take you outside the building. Next slide is a perspective view of what this would look like from the corner of Mass Ave and School Street. So in the center of the picture, you see the main facade of the proposed town hall. It has two types of columns. There are pilasters 2 stories tall that I think signal the fact that this is a civic building and has architecture with civic scale. There's also the smaller order of columns, which are more human scaled, and that is the colonnade that supports the canopy over the walkway that brings you to parking lots. And the two kind of weave together in the front facade to give you the design that you see there. We're showing a large paved kind of plaza in front of the building that would possibly be populated with street furniture or bicycle racks or any number of things. We're showing a planter just to indicate that we think something like that would be appropriate there. Maybe a flagpole, and all of these things are to be decided. But looking at the building, you can see on the second floor, the upper part of the stair hall on the plan is called a waiting area. Until that gets enclosed for some other purpose, you would see what we're proposing, a nice light fixture over the main stair hall, and then offices over to the left. And along the School Street facade, a series of windows of exactly the same size, spaced on a regular pattern. It's a typical of New England vernacular architecture, but graced with a colonnade. And we're showing the colonnade having a translucent glass roof to let dappled light through. I think it'd be a nice effect. Next slide. Oh, wait, we should show before we do that. What we're showing in front of the Ritter building, can you zoom in a little bit there, is a landscape treatment to mitigate the loss of the stairs that were removed at some point prior to our involvement, replacing that with a kind of ziggurat shaped seating area that could be a place to sit and gather with friends in nice weather, or place to stack your snowmen when it's snowing out. It's just a feature in front of the building that is akin to the stairs that the first architects had put there, but does not suggest that you could use those to get up into the building. Yeah, the next slide is going to take you inside the front door. So as you go through the front door on Mass Ave into the town hall, you would see immediately to your right a stair that ascends to the second level, and then down the main hall. First on your right would be the transaction window for the assessor's office and the data collector. Down the hall would be those other municipal offices that we showed you on the plan. We're proposing that it have a floor tiled with either resilient tiling, or perhaps even nicer would be something like slate flooring. wood wainscoting to give a nice warm and resilient kind of wall treatment, so that if it gets banged by a stroller or something like that, it doesn't leave a mark on the paint. And then above that would be a wall illuminated with wall washers, where you could wall wash lighting to hang historical artwork, paintings, town seals, maps, things like that. We're not proposing here the final interior design, but rather to suggest what our idea was of what this would look like when you walk through the front door. And next slide is our concept for making the 1965 wing of the Ritter building accessible. And the idea here is to take the kind of fieldstone treatment that's on the left-hand side existing and build upon that over on the right-hand side with a fieldstone planter that is in the middle of a sloping walk that would elevate people from the parking lot level up to the entrance level. It's about 70 feet in length, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, Marley, but I think that's about right. 70
That's
feet,
correct.
which at a slope of 1 to 20 gets you up just the right number of inches to the front door. And if we can keep it at a slope of 1 to 20, that's 5% grade. It's not a ramp. It's just what's called a sloped walkway, like you might find in any city or town in Boston or Massachusetts, and does not require a lot of metal railings, neither handrails nor guardrails. And I think it allows for a more elegant, accessible solution. And there's a canopy over the entrance stairs. This is really more like the spirit of universal design, in that two people who approach the building, one being able-bodied and another person disabled, or perhaps pushing a stroller with a baby in it, start at the same location and end at the same location. They just take different routes. So that's our trip around the outside of the new town hall and Ritter. Next, we were going to show you the plans for the meeting house, renovations of the old town hall, lower floor and upper floor. I think this is very consistent with what you saw last time. We did look into the elevator code, and we can replace the existing Lula lift with a new piece of elevator equipment. It would fit within the same hoistway. We reconfigured the toilet room on the second floor to provide more privacy. And you can see on the lower floor, conference rooms and an office space. I don't think there's much new here that you haven't already seen. I think the next slide shows our approach to the outside. So this illustrates the existing conditions with the concrete, new concrete walk that, however, comes up somewhat short of the entry level. You can see there's several inches of a bump between the new concrete paving and the porch. And then within the porch, there's about a 5-inch bump to get to the main floor level. What we propose to do is to just change the paving. Next slide. There we go. So that that concrete paving would be redone so that it gently slopes up to the level of the main entryway. I think we can do this without any handrails or  And if you were to see it today and then come back in 5 years, I don't think you'd notice that anything had changed, except that in fact it's now accessible. Other than that, we don't intend to change the town hall exterior at all. Well, we'd be putting up new windows, replacing the old windows. And I think we're also proposing the front door be made a single swing door rather than 2 narrow doors. But that's the extent of renovation that we're proposing on the exterior of the old town hall. And that is what we have to show tonight. We'd be happy to hear any questions or comments.
All right. Well, thank you for this presentation. I want to start with members of the committee. Any thoughts, comments, feedback they'd like to provide, then I want to open it up and members of the committee, including Mr. Scullin-Brini. And then any thoughts, comments from the public at large that they'd like to offer into this. I won't go first, so let's see who would like to offer their comments, thoughts first.
I'm happy to go first.
Mr. Roy.
Thanks very much. I appreciate it, all the work here. Again, I know I've said this about every meeting that you've attended, but I'm a consultant. I know how much work goes into these kind of things, and I know you're doing a lot of work, so I appreciate it. Yeah, I know Michael Ray gave a pretty in-depth summary of the feedback that we gave you in between meetings, and you know, to my view, we've largely addressed all of it. I think the comments I wanted to make really relate to your renderings. I really like the treatments on the you know, that view there, as well as that view there. You know, I really think you know, I'm no architect or historical genius, but to me, it really seems pretty visually appealing to me. I'm really thankful that we're building in handicapped accessibility on both this picture here, but also for the existing town hall building, you know, future meeting hall or meeting house. I think that's really important. For a long time, we haven't had, well, forever in these buildings, we haven't had handicapped accessibility into the front door, into the front entrances, and it's, you know, we wouldn't want to miss an opportunity to do that. You know, I think some of the changes that were made interior on the town hall, the new town hall space, appear very positive. I think, you know, things like moving offices to the exterior of the building and, you know, advancing the floor plan a little bit more. I like that. I wonder, and I can take this torch, see if we can find any information relative to possible depth to ledge and or groundwater there. I guess that'd be my concern, is that a 12-foot basement there, 13-foot basement there. While I agree will be has the potential to be cost effective, also has the potential to be costly if we get into shallow ledge and or have to mitigate groundwater. Although I will say, I think we have a way to do that. We're using perhaps the elevations to our advantage as they go down School Street and onto the 30 School Street property by way of drainage. So we might be able to overcome it. But yeah, I mean, overall, I really like the you know, the way things are shaping up here. I guess I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Mr. Roy. Any other member from the committee that wants to comment?
This is Brian. I have a 6:30 school committee meeting, so I should probably jump in. I do like the idea of the ramp and the mirror on this picture. The town hall, I appreciate the ramp going up. I like that idea. I don't know why they didn't do it in the first place. That was a great idea. Again, the presentation overall is great too. I did appreciate the changes to the exterior of the town hall. I felt like it was a little bit too grandiose, I think, last meeting, and I think it got a little bit more complementary to the actual Ritter building. So I think this has been an upgrade, but I definitely want to hear from the public and see what they think too as well. But I definitely like the improvements, and I appreciate that you took the feedback and made adjustments, and I'm hoping people will have additional feedback to improve the process. Especially, I would hope that the superintendent also can give some feedback on this design as well. That's it. Thank you.
All right, let's keep going. Mr. Gray, you unmuted.
Yeah, I also was very impressed with the new layout. I think that works well. I was the parking on School Street with this with the overhang with the solar panels. I thought that was interesting. I guess I have a question of, is there going to be more opportunities either at the new town hall or at the existing town hall for use of solar? That would be something that would obviously be reduce operation expenses for the town and be very helpful. I'm not sure how they sit versus where the sun is and all that, but that would be interesting. I do have the same kind of concerns about ledge in that area, but I'm not an expert. So, but I just know we have a lot of ledge in town, so it's always a concern. But I think it's a very good idea. Now, I noticed is there not going to be a second crosswalk on Route 2A on Mass Ave? Is it? I don't see one there. Is that off the table?
Yeah, Tom, I can answer that one. Yeah, we had talked about that, about the real potential of that occurring, and I think the general experience from Mr. Roy, from the architects, was that with it being a state road, that is two kind of issues. One is that it's a could be a multi-year approval process. Excuse me, but second is that typically when they put in crosswalks, and I think this is to Mr. Roy's point previously, that the state looks for compliance with what they call complete streets. And so there will likely need to be upgrades to the entire area. And so I think the thought process was that it wasn't going to happen. And that it certainly would be a future project that would take some time, but unlikely to occur.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if they gave us a second crosswalk where we have one already at a signalized intersection. I think the chances of putting another another crosswalk across Route 2A, 300 feet away from a signalized intersection is not zero, but pretty close. That's my experience. I could be wrong, but that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Greg. Mr. Allison. I know we have some members.
Hi. I only wrote 3 things down. So the first one I noticed was the parking in the back where the annex was. That's shown overlaying the existing access way that goes down to the back of the lot. I think that should be accommodated. I mean, that's a very large lot, and it would be a shame to lose the accessibility and use of that back area where the playground used to be, all the play stuff.
Matt, just to understand, are you saying instead of having this go south, that it should go east to west more? Is that what your comment is?
No, I guess my recommendation would be have it more centered.
So kind of move it further up a little bit into the existing lot.
Let me see. If north is straight up, I would say move it westerly. Right.
Oh.
But I mean, because the access to the back part of that lot is on the easterly side on the lot line there.
Yep.
And then a couple of other comments, one for each building, I guess. So the one on 20 walkway next to the existing Redder building, that's, in my understanding, not ADA compliant. And I also believe that if you've got an exposed surface like that, it's considered a trip hazard. So I don't see how you would be able to get away without having a railing where the guy in the wheelchair is. And not only that, it's not safe for people in chairs, easily topple off of it.
Would you say it's not ADA compliant? What do you mean?
I thought the ramps had to be a maximum of 30 feet, 1 inch per foot, or 2% max grade in any direction. Is that true?
You know, it's a ramp is 1 in 12. This is at 1 in 20, not a ramp. It's a sloped walkway. So it doesn't need to have landings every 30 inches. We could put them in if you want to slow down the
No,
roll.
you're the professional. I was just commenting on my understanding of
Yeah.
requirements. And I also thought that there would be a railing requirement.
Yeah, you're right about the open-sided edge to that. There would need to be some safety considerations there, but it doesn't necessarily need to be a 42-inch guardrail. It could be a planter or something. But it's a good point.
And then now that I'm looking at it, I'm glad you took the tree out of the gutter, but you didn't put the gutter back on the building. Are we gonna have gutterless, or?
We'll have gutters. Yeah.
I understand it was a quick, yeah, it looks really good. I like the graphics. And then the third comment I had was sloping the walkway in front of the current town hall. It's already, I think it's already got a slight slope to it, and I think if you increase the slope, it's gonna be very, very difficult to stand on when it gets wet and icy. Just my comment there. And that's all I got. But thank you for all your work.
Mr. Scalambrini.
I think that the design is certainly better than what we saw previously. I am concerned about a 12-foot hole and the potential for that to become something that's more expensive. Overall, I think the big issue, based on the discussions I heard from the school committee meeting, as to whether or not we want to have school functions adjacent to town functions, I think that verdict needs to be decided upon by the school committee. And Brian, that's something that I'm sure that you'll go back and talk to the committee about this evening. You know, if we don't end up with school functions at the Ritter Memorial Building, then we wouldn't need an addition. I think you could make the 65 addition a little bit bigger and accommodate town needs with an L-shaped building rather than the U-shaped design that we're currently looking at. I still believe that it's kind of crazy to have an elevator and Lulu's in the same general complex. I think that, and I'm never a fan of seeing buildings with exterior walls that are at angles, because it creates wasted space. I noticed, particularly in the basement where PAX would be, there's a lot of area, you know, out in front that has to be built. And I'm not sure what would take place. And then, of course, we still have the issue of the ramps between the new addition into the Ritter lower and upper floors. You know, I think that I think you could build this, but then the question is it cost effective? But it certainly is better than what we saw a couple weeks ago. For Brian, I think that the school issues they need to be addressed pretty quickly. You know, if the schools don't want to be commingled with town functions, that needs to get resolved ASAP, because that has a significant impact on where and how we deal with moving more town people to the Ritter Memorial Complex. And it was the school committee meeting of last week that really prompted me to send my note out to the committee members that said, whoa, we need to make sure that we, the owner, know exactly what we want, and that if the school people don't want to be there, they need to call that out like tonight. So those are my 2 cents worth.
All right, I'll offer my feedback broadly after seeing the full presentation. I think that what's been presented tonight is on point with what I think the intent here was. I appreciate the furniture layouts. I think that allows people to better conceptualize the space. What I also like is that we have reuse of an existing building, and then we have a new town hall. And I think that the way that they're done, if we can go to the rendering that shows it from the exterior view. And I think that the way that this is done, it clearly is 2 distinctively different structures, which is a intentional design requirement consistent with those Department of Interior standards. I do want to come to a couple of comments. This committee was created as per the charter. And so our makeup includes and has always included representation from the planning board, representation from the finance committee, representation from the school committee, representation from the select board. We have been very deliberate and intentional in also ensuring that since we are in a architectural preservation district, that we have engaged also APDC, who are the committee that helps us give approvals and changes in that district. So that way there could be advice along the way. I think broadly there has been an expectation for all of the members who we do have members who are community at large. That would be Mr. Roy, Mr. Blatt, Christina Sidis. And the intention of the committee is that we have representation from these different boards, and I think there's an expectation that along the process that committee members have gone back to their boards to communicate any progress and developments that happen here. I think that the hybrid plan was well communicated, that include and the charge of what we have. We had a TCP charge, which was looking to co-locate or consolidate the uses of town, school, and community purposes. That charge was enlarged so that way we can look at other properties beyond TCP. But I think that in conversation for at least the last 6 years, this conversation has been really out there, really vocal, that the intent here is to do our best to try to co-locate if possible. And the benefit of co-location is increasing collaboration, increasing the same standards that all staff who work in any kind of office type setting, that they have the same standard. It reuses with the Ritter building, which then preserves the building, and reuses town hall, which then preserves it. If we can just go to the floor plan of the first or second floor we'll say, of the property, the upper level. Now, one of the comments that came about from my meeting with the school department and the superintendent, just to reiterate, has been engaged in this process, and the plan that we've seen tonight on the Ritter building was a plan that was essentially handed to me from the superintendent in a meeting with the district offices of how they wanted this building to look. Had a subsequent conversation with the superintendent that I was a little concerned that the size of the ACE meeting room would be. If we go to the lower level, this would make a little more sense. And a little concerns about the size of what's identified as the ACE meeting room. Now, this is intended to be a more private meeting space for the students who are in college, other things. I know that we've accounted for that window to try to make this room a little bigger. But I do think that based on their needs, that ACE meeting room would need to get a little bit smaller. But the reuse of these spaces definitely preserves and maintains the building. So from my perspective, looking at this from trying to assemble various viewpoints about what everyone wanted to see and do, we've been engaged in this process for quite a while. That all solutions are compromised. I know that as everyone on the committee, I think, is aware, that I do a check-in with the architects between meetings for somewhat of a progress update, and then to keep funneling more information to them. And as I funnel information to them, I have communicated with the rest of the board, but there have been a couple other emails that have come directly to Chris Ruth about certain things, looking for data and other stuff that maybe all of us weren't on. But that's, again, looking for records and files. But I think that in this process, that what we have is we started this process looking at 55,000 square feet. We're down to about 22,000-ish square feet. I think that this makes really good use of the Ritter building. I think that the ACE space provides for expansion for the school district offices if they grow and if ACE needs to relocate. Typically, they have about 6 students. Some of them have jobs, some of them are in college. We know that going into next year, their enrollment's going to be closer to 10 students. But I think that as I look at this resolves a lot of the concerns. And again, the school committee's intent is for this to be, not the school committee, the school department school district office's intent is for this to be used as 2 separate buildings. They really don't want people coming in this pass-through of where we've connected these buildings. But the value of having these buildings connected allows us to not need to replicate. We can account for the full building for toilet calculations. We can account for the full building for copy room, for break rooms. These decrease needs to replicate once you start separating these spaces. And so it is a smart consolidation, and it makes really good use of, we do have an atypical design in terms of building layout, but it's masked really well behind this bridge, if you will. And so on the front side, there is that element of symmetry. I like the work that was done for the faux stairs, so to speak, that landing area. So I think that this, and of course, I really like the entrance into Ritter. It is consistent enough with the plans that were already approved by the Architecture Preservation District that were already kind of worked on. Of course, this ramp is not a ramp. The slope walkway is a new element here. But in terms of what the actual entrance looks like, I know we didn't speak to this today, but this shows these doors coming further out to give a little bit of a bigger landing area inside to be have that ADA compliance. And it just is a better entrance. And once you class this up with, school district offices, et cetera, I think that this really becomes a great entrance. One thing that I've asked for are these 15-minute parking spaces so that people can get in and out of these buildings. If you just need to come in, drop something off and walk away, that you have parking really close to the building. The limitation with any kind of, and I know the committee has already considered the request from Mr. Scullin-Brini about considering this whole building being on this side. We voted on that and we declined that request. But we did consider it. I like this design. I think that parking is always an issue when you have staff walking too far to get into a parking lot or get into a building. So I think this was really tastefully done. So I'm really satisfied. I know that for those of us who are in the property or construction world, this is a process. And I want to acknowledge the great work that Robert, Marley, and Stephen have done guiding us through this process, where every week we have an advancement that is significant improvement. It doesn't sound like we're giving too much feedback here tonight, though, that there's a lot of, I'm guessing, enjoyment or appreciation of this plan. I want to go to members of the community. I see that we have Ms. Lockwood with us, we have Selectman Imke with us, and Ms. Lizio with us. If I can ask if any of them would like to make a comment, if you have one, I certainly will welcome that. Selectman Imke.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
I'm trying to turn my camera, but it's not cooperating. So,
There
oh,
we go.
there it is. Serious lag. I have questions based on some of the feedback I've seen, watching previous recordings. I was wondering if you could go to the lower level floor plan. And it's mostly around the schools. Unfortunately, they have committee meeting tonight, so the people who really know what they need aren't here, but I'll just ask questions based on what I've heard in the past. So, one was security around the 8th. It looks like right near the vet service office, between the vet service office and a special service, there's a white block in that hallway. Is that a, it's not drawn like a door, but is that,
That's a door.
okay, so that's the security, maybe a key card into that area of the building?
Yes. And again, we're not in the construction phase, but yes.
No, I'm just, because I know that was a concern, being able to have security while students are in there. And is going to the right side, is that an exterior door, another exterior entrance coming into that ACE space?
Are you talking about the door that's at the
Yes, right there,
bottom of the
yes.
plan?
It's hard to describe. I'm pointing, you can't see that?
Yeah, there's an existing door that goes into the Ritter addition. And that could be made into a window. It need not be a door.
Okay,
We don't
okay,
need that
okay.
door for access or egress. I think it was
I
done
didn't
for
think so. Okay.
an early attempt at access, to make it a level entrance, not with stairs, but that could be done away with.
Yeah, okay, good. The other question I have is just, and I don't know how, I know clearly, residents come in, they go to the assessor's office, the tax collector, so on, conservation commission, building, whatever. There's a lot of public activity going in to town offices. I don't know how much of the public goes in during the day to see. I know enrolling kids, I think there was a comment made about parents go in to sign kids up, and they actually spend a significant amount of time there sitting and talking and often have kids. So I'm just, again, wondering a couple of things. One, employee parking, let's call it visitor parking, public parking, to go in and do those things. And if the public were to walk into the reception area, they are essentially in the ACE space with students. Again, this is for the superintendent, for Brian, I don't know, anyone on the school committee would know. Those are some of the questions I have around just the mixing of public and students. I know it's a sensitive thing, and something to be aware of. And I think
I can
Sorry,
respond
go
to
ahead.
that question, Renee.
Mhm.
So the intent, as I met with them, was what you're seeing in blue, and I will correct that. This area that's identified as reception should probably not, that room that we created right above where the word reception should not be in blue, because that's not ACE. Or it should be in blue because it's school, but it's not ACE. So what you see there is that door, Selectman Imke, and if you can get the cursor right at the door that goes into ACE. I don't know if I can see it or not, but it's probably there. When you come in the door, bottom line is when you come in those doors, side doors, to the right is the suite to get into ACE. With a card access type system, that could be that secured door. And then that would be, the 18 through 21-year-olds, as I understand, speaking with the superintendent as recently as this afternoon. Several of these students have jobs in the community. Several of them go to college. Many of them currently do kind of like orderly type work where they do inter office mail deliveries. And then their request was to keep that ACE kitchen where it's at because it's not used as frequently. And that way it's a space that they would pass through. So I think that the public, and I don't know the answer to your question about how often the public comes into the office. What they spoke to was that they do have parents that enroll kids, that they have IEP meetings in the district offices. And so that was why they really wanted that reception room, that kind of private that private space there. And it also contributes to, when we get into the second floor of the building, the upper level here, that it also contributes to the size of the HR finance office, the size of the director of teaching office, and the size of the superintendent office, that these are slightly larger than what our space calculations accounted for. Part of it is due to the existing footprint, but I think there was a thought there that you know, several things can happen in these spaces, but generally the students would be separate from the rest of the space, and that they would you know, they'd come out when they needed to use a restroom. In the lower level, we did designate one of the bathrooms as being for ACE only, and that was one of the requests that came from the school department, was to have a designated restroom facility for them, to kind of keep with that separation. And again, that the interplay between the two buildings functions as a mode of egress, and then also functions as a ability to share some of those common features like the kitchen, copy room, and not to be you know, gross, but not everyone wants to go to the bathroom in their kind of workspace. So there's a lot of benefit to having larger bathrooms nearby that people can utilize.
Okay. If you could go back to the lower level again, please. Thanks. So I know in addition to kitchen, they mentioned a laundry facilities. Can that be included there too?
That's in the,
Or-
that's what's identified as the ACE kitchen. It's laundry, washer, dryer
Oh,
facility.
laundry's in there too. Okay, so what's a special service?
These are,
space?
I'd have to pull up my list. I don't know if you have it handy, Stephen or Robert, that I had sent over to you.
Yeah, so I can explain these rooms. So the larger area, which is like that open office, is special service admin. So there's a couple admin assistants who are in this area. One of these rooms is special service the director, and then the other room is the special service storage room. So it's all the same general focus, but they're in a little bit different spaces in that bottom floor altogether.
Okay. And having that ACE space on the right side, not in the basement, still lower floor, but not what, you know, the basement. Does that address the school department's concern about putting the ACE program in a basement?
I would say, Selectman MQ, the answer is yes. I can share my screen for a moment, if I may, Stephen. And let me share this. And let me know if you can see this or not.
Yep. I can,
you see this?
yeah, it's small.
All right, let me enlarge it then. You see this plano that says Ritter here?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
a little better for everyone?
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
So when I met with the, oh, hold on. There's some kind of weird button here. All right. When I met with the school department, and my handwriting is the terrible handwriting. And the superintendent's handwriting is the nicer handwriting. But they gave us a markup of what they wanted to see. And I made additional notes, and then we scanned this in and sent it to the architect. But this is kind of how they programmed it for us and what they were looking to envision, and kind of how they marked it up. And so, you know, we see the notes again, washer, dryer. They wanted to make sure that that was there, and they are. You know, that reception area that was created over here, they had crossed out, as you see, certain walls that were initially depicted. And then, you know, their request for a small office. And then as we get into the upper floors, you know, as you can see that they requested, you know, some of these rooms to get a little bit bigger here, to kind of create that landing space. You know, that was one of the requests. And then, you know, obviously on both levels, they were, you know, in data, security, they wanted to make sure that we had doors there. So what I think we're seeing from the plans that the architects are showing us tonight is consistency with what was requested by the school district, and then seeing these in motion. And I'll stop sharing here and go back to Stephen.
I'm trying to, picture this in my mind. So the expected people traffic, let's call it. So is the expectation that all the ACE students will come in through the Ritter main entrance on the side?
I think that when we were talking through this, I think most people will likely come in from the town hall side in the mornings and walk through.
Including the ACE students.
Uh, I didn't ask them
Yeah.
about the ACE students in particular. I know that many of them get dropped off. And one of the considerations that we had was ensuring that that parking lot can accommodate for like a MART bus to be able to come in there and get out.
Mhm.
So, students that do get dropped off, that they would come in those primary doors. I did ask the question of if a notable percentage of the students are in wheelchairs or have mobility concerns. The answer was no. That most of these students don't have those concerns, but I think the expectation would be that in the mornings, many people would likely come into the space coming through the town side to get there. And the ACE program, I think that would be a school decision. But again, the parking lot was intentionally modified here to account for a smaller bus dropping off.
Okay. That was the motivation behind my question is if the expectation is that ACE students come in through the Ritter entrance, is there enough parking? I don't know how many of them would actually drive, or an easy, drop off, or like you mentioned, the MART bus or something. So being able to accommodate that, to make the drop off and the entrance for the students easier to come directly into the Ritter building. Yeah, so I think that's yeah, I think those are all I'm happy to see the parks and conservation have offices with windows. That's a nice nice improvement. So the feedback was heard. Yeah, that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any other comments from the public here? All right. If we can stop screen sharing for a moment. Oh, we do have a request from the public. This is Rhonda. I just asked you to unmute.
Hi, this is Rhonda Licio, 181 Reservoir Road. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you, Rhonda.
Okay. I just wanted to agree with one of the previous speakers regarding this doesn't really look like a very cost-effective plan to me, especially when we're talking about digging, a 12-foot, digging 12 feet into the ground or whatever it is. I think that we would be better off to more fully renovate the buildings that we have, like the existing town hall. I would like to see the school in town separated between the Ritter and the existing town hall. I think the addition is going to be so big and costly in the entire renovation. And also I'd like to say, when I think back to when we spent money to investigate renovating TCP versus a new build at TCP, the one thing we learned was it's less expensive to renovate existing than to build new. So I don't know why we're pursuing any kind of a new build when we have a 6,500 square foot building at the town hall. And as far as meeting rooms go, if I had $1 for every time I was the only person to attend a meeting in that Bellata room, the only member of the public, many, many times, that meeting room is a waste of space. We should be we shouldn't be paying to renovate and maintain that space for that purpose. And I'd rather see us, if we were going to expand, instead of digging a basement, I would like to see us look into how much it would cost to structurally secure the town hall and possibly expand up into the attic. I think that would be seems like a better cost savings. And we'd always have an option of adding on to the Ritter at a later time. I just think this is going to cost way too much. And I don't really I like how it looks as far as the work that was done, but I don't like the size. So that's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lizio. Do we have any, I don't see, oh, we have one other member of the public. Do we have any other comments from the public here tonight? Any other comments from the public? All right, seeing none. So this is the point of the meeting where we give the architect some guidance on what are we looking for our next meeting. As a reminder, cost estimation is occurring right now at our meeting on the 3rd, which will be remote. We are expecting to have those cost estimates. And then we have an in-person meeting on the 4th, joint meeting with the select board. I will confirm that time. I believe it's 7:05 or 7:10, but I will confirm that time with the select board. But any feedback we want to give to the architectural team? And I don't want to call everyone by name. If you guys want to unmute yourselves and just throw some comments out there, let's feel free. Not seeing anything.
I'll do one. Two things to say. One is I have to depart for another meeting, and I see we have a quorum issue perhaps. So I'll try to stay on as long as I can. I think when you're cost estimating, you should put some money in make sure we bring the A package for basement waterproofing.
Gotcha.
That's it.
Yep.
Okay. Any other comments or thoughts? All right, so it looks like we are pretty close to a design here that we're in agreement with. Any comments on the exterior facade? I did note a couple of things that I thought there was general agreement that I noted visually appealing, that they liked a member liked the exterior of the buildings. There was a note about that potential trip hazard as it was the entrance into the Ritter building. Questions about as related to that sloped walkway. We do have some questions about parking. Is there any, what's the most kind of short-term parking we can get close to the building? But that's really, oh, and we had a question about the canopy, solar canopy, as related to the structure itself. And if there was any potential to add solar onto the rooftops of the structure itself. But that's really what I captured here. I know that Ms. Lizio had some comments, and then I know that Mrs. Scalambrini also had some comments that were a little more constructive. Any other thoughts we want to provide here? Any guidance? If not, it sounds like we're telling them that they're at a pretty good point, and then we're looking for better renderings. Not better, but they're the continuation of the renderings. I wouldn't say better. I think that what we've seen tonight is quite phenomenal. So, Mr. Scalambrini.
For cost estimating purposes, what does the consultant see in terms of removing existing materials, how far will that go within town hall? You know, I am concerned about preserving some elements of the building while we put new electrical in, new sprinkler systems, you know, pretty much upgrade all the MEP for existing town hall. And I think that, you know, when you bring back the cost estimate, I want to make sure that that cost estimate reflects all of the work that would be done within town hall. You know, I think that it'll be a challenge to save things in there if we're going to renovate it the way it should be done. You know, like the issue with regards to the ceilings, you know, obviously, if we're going to be, you know, removing tablets in there, those need special handling, so on and so forth. So it's not going to be a 16-pound sledgehammer demolition in town hall. And what we end up with, I think, will be, you know, certainly more expensive than building a new building with regards to those types of finishes. You know, so we'd have to have some, some discretion in terms of what do we do with, you know, the metal ceilings, so on and so forth. Overall, I think Town Hall is a pretty solid building. I was just absolutely blown away with the structure itself. And, you know, the building's almost 200 years old, and it really is pretty daggone solid. One thing I might mention to you, Robert, is that the windows were relatively recently replaced. I don't think those, I mean, I know they're not existing windows or not original windows. And I'm going to guess, you know, they're vinyl, you know, clad windows. And maybe that's why you want to replace them, to put something that's more appropriate in there. But I don't believe they're that old. So just FYI, because we had looked at the windows when we were doing exterior repairs and re-roofing Town Hall as part of the Architectural Preservation District review.
Yeah, if I may respond to that, several points there. As far as the demolition of the old town hall, I think that it would be, it will not be the 16-pound sledge. It would be carefully removing anything that is, you know, to be safe kept for either replacing after the building is reconfigured or moving to another location. So anything that's a worthy artifact would be kept safe. And many of the partitions for office space, the doors, etc., of the lower level would be removed because that's going to be largely reconfigured. But the timber bones of the building won't be touched. Right. I mean, that is why it's still standing. It's an incredibly stout, well-built timber frame, you know, masterwork. I wouldn't want to do any harm to that. And I think the tin ceiling is one of the distinguishing features of the big room upstairs. So I hope we can preserve that. And if it has been chewed up in prior renovations, you know, restore it as much as possible. I thought that the window replacement was being transferred from a prior project to this project.
Only for the Ritter.
Only for the Ritter. Okay.
Yeah, not for Town Hall.
Okay, I'll communicate that to our cost estimator for sure.
Yeah.
Because yeah, that's
there are a few windows at the basement level in the back that were scheduled to be replaced, and I think they are being replaced by the current repair project that is underway at Town Hall.
Okay, well, that's good.
Only Ritter are the windows. One other thing I might mention about the Ritter is making sure that, you know, your rendering that shows the Lancaster Avenue approach to Ritter Memorial is very similar to what we'd already paid an architect to do. And I do believe that we'll consume some of that square footage in the process of doing that. And if I'm remembering correctly, going back to Matt's comment, I think we did have a handrail on that ramp that went up to, that eventually allowed people to come up to the main level to get into the 65 edition as a handicapped individual. But the doorway itself, that has to be addressed. And And I'm not sure if that's in the current contract. That's something that you should verify, because you can't enter that entryway and meet your handicap requirements. The
Right.
existing door on the outside and the interior door on that lobby, there's not enough space for wheelchair access. So,
Right. And we are going to separate those doors so there's more dimension between the inner door and the outer door.
okay.
Yeah.
You know, I agree with the ceiling. I mean, it'd be really nice to do the kind of, upgrade of mechanical electrical pieces and keep the ceiling in there. I think that'll be a challenge because of, the nature of the work that has to be done.
Yeah. I think we're going to need to sprinkler that building, and that's going to be where the ceiling will be challenged.
Yes, absolutely.
If the sprinkler work can all be done from the attic side
Mhm.
and holes cut through, surgically to locate the sprinkler heads at the pattern that are required every 15 feet on center, something like that. That's the kind of fine level of design that is really not where we are. We're
No,
doing
but
a
cost
schematic.
estimating has to be taken into consideration.
Yep. I've been in touch with the estimator. I've been trying to get numbers out of him. He said, I don't have any numbers for you until I add them all up. So leave me alone. So, but I can feed him more information, make sure that he takes into consideration that it's going to be a sprinkler system of, architectural grade, at least in the big room upstairs in town hall. And, that will be demolishing with care. So it might up the dollars per square foot on the demolition line. All good points. Thank you.
All right.
I have one other comment that I just remembered, was that we recently got the town hall repainted. And my understanding was that the comment was made by the people painting it that there was no way we were gonna get another lifetime out of the siding. The clapboards on the outside, I think the whole outside needs to be replaced.
I don't really have any information on that at all. We would need to,
Man, I've lived.
whoever painted it probably knows more what that substrate is, what condition it is than anybody else.
That building hasn't been painted for at least 5 years, because I've lived in Lunenburg that long. Which is pretty incredible for a building of that age, that it's holding the paint the way it is. But those types of buildings need maintenance. There's no escaping that. But that building hasn't been painted in 5 years, because I've been living here for 5. I moved moved up here in January 2020, and it's now January 2025. So it's actually pretty decent for an old building like that. Just like that timber framing. It was spellbinding to see that.
Tony, I feel confident that it was probably painted in the fall of 2019, because that building was looking raggedy for many years before that painting job occurred, and it wasn't white. It was like the original white, which was like a grayish kind of color. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that we've given as much guidance as we're going to give here tonight. I think that, the key task here is between now and the third is to, look at some of the deliverables that were in the RFP. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. I know that, and we can talk about that. So what we're going to do next, and I know that Mr. Roy has to get to a meeting, so I want to be as brief as I can to get out of this, because we're going to be losing our quorum here in a moment. So first, I want to thank you, Robert. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Marley, for all the work that you've done. I want to thank the members of the public, Selectman Imke, Mr. Walker, Ms. Lizio, for their contributions to tonight's meeting. Certainly appreciated, and also all the staff who've given feedback in kind of prompt, short order as it relates to a lot of this product, so that way we can incorporate their feedback. Next steps will be to show what you've provided tonight, what the architectural team has provided tonight to staff for additional feedback, and then I will funnel that information back over to the team by the end of this week.
Good. I think that we will add to this slideshow some black and white floor plans where the furnishing is a lot clearer. I think that will help staff when they look at those rooms.
Okay.
We have them in just pure black and white without the color overlay, which kind of obscures the furnishings.
All right. If you can, as soon as you can send that over to me so I can distribute it, I will appreciate that.
We will do that.
Right.
I think square foot totals would also be helpful by room.
Okay. We'll get that to you tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for all your thoughtful comments. It's really helpful. We're getting a lot of very helpful, constructive commentary from you. You're really doing a good job as being clients. I want to tell you that.
Good to hear. Thank you. All right, Mr. Roy, it has to head out for a professional meeting, so we are going to be losing quorum here. I want to provide one update, which is a discussion on TC Passios building. Spoken with Chris Ruth and also with our town manager, and they've expressed some concerns about the usability of what is essentially the central and north wings of that building due to water damage, water infiltration. We now have believed to be friable asbestos in parts of that building. You know, asbestos containing material is dangerous when it becomes airborne, and we have reason to believe that that asbestos containing material may be friable in a portion of that building. So what Chris Ruth is working on is mothballing the central and northern wings of that building. What that essentially means to people at home who don't know, it's when you take a building offline. You know, electrical systems are connected throughout the building, plumbing systems are connected throughout the building, heating systems are connected throughout the building. And so the work that is going on is identifying how to separate the front portion of the building from the central and northern portions of the building. So that way that building can be mothballed. We can then get a cost for demolition. And that again is consistent with the general phased plan that the municipal building design has on these properties. That would then be a temporary relocation out of the building by the school district, potentially by the ACE program, and a relocation within the building, potentially by PAC. So there's a lot of conversation that's going to be happening over the coming months on this, and more information will come our way. I think it's unlikely that we will have any intimation of a demolition number anywhere near the time of the warrant closing or the interim time between town meeting. You know, it may take several months to get those numbers through, but that is a realistic concern. Again, you know, this committee was focused on how we can reuse that building. When we got to a $30 million price tag, I think it was a pretty universal community decision that we were going to shift gears here a bit. Half of which, or about half of which, 14 million or so, were code upgrades, unrelated to any kind of significant improvements to the building, just meeting the new energy and building codes. So more information to come on that, but I did want to discuss that broadly. I think that where we're at is general agreement. I know that we've heard some grumblings from the community about different aspects of the project, and that to me is normal. In every decision, you talk to 20 people, they're gonna have 20 different ideas of what there should be here. But we have to resolve ourselves to a community solution. Again, being respectful to Mr. Roy's time. When he drops off, we lose quorum. So I need to kind of quickly get to our meeting schedule so we can adjourn. We are scheduled to meet on February the 3rd. That is a Monday. That will, and then also February the 4th, which is a Tuesday, joint meeting with the select board. And we need to discuss rescheduling the February 17th meeting, as that is President's Day. And so if we can all kind of take a look at our calendars, we can do this on the 3rd when we have a better majority of our members with us, see what our calendars look like. And so we'll hit that then. All right. I know that there's more things to discuss with updates to boards, committees, but again, I want to be mindful of Mr. Roy's time. Do we have any final comments this evening from the public? Any final comments from our APDC representative?
No.
And any final comments from the board? All right, seeing none, I want to thank everyone for their time this evening. The time is now 7:13. I move to adjourn.
Second.
All right, we have a second. This will be a roll call vote. Mr. Roy,
Aye.
Mr. Gray,
Aye.
Mr. Allison,
Aye.
Mr. Scullin-Brini,
Aye.
and an aye for myself, Michael Ray Jeffries. Thank you all for being with us this evening, and we'll see you on the 3rd of February. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Good night.